Hello and welcome to Where Are They Now with Mario Toneguzzi on Megapix Media. Joining me today is Mark Petros, who is the owner of Nick's Steakhouse and Pizza in Calgary. Thanks for joining us today, Mark.
Oh, my pleasure.
Well, Mark, let's start with talking about Nick's. Now, you guys have a long history here in Calgary. Can you explain a little bit about the history of Nick's and how it started?
Well, Nick started in 1979, March 12th, actually. So it's going to be our 42nd anniversary in a couple days. My mom and dad, they started it with one of my dad's cousins. They, in 1988, my parents bought out his cousin, so they were the sole owners. And then in November of 2000, my wife and I, we bought the business from my parents. And it's a family-run business. We've got the third generation starting to work there now. My kids are helping out.
Yeah.
It's just a labor of love. In fact, I have never had another job other than Nick's Steakhouse in my life.
Wow. What did you first do there?
Oh, busboy, dishes, vacuumer, cleaner. We've done it all.
Yeah. Now, for those who don't know, Nick's is strategically located right across the street from McMahon Stadium. What made your parents, your father, choose that place initially?
Oh, it was by accident. We were driving home from my cousin's house who lived in Lakeview, and my dad was just working with my uncle because he had a restaurant called the Epicurean downtown, but they sold it for whatever reason. It was problems. And we stopped it was a JB Big Boy right on the corner there, coming home. And we went in and we were hungry. We sat down, we ordered food, and the food was terrible. So my dad demanded to speak to the manager or the owner. And the guy came out, and my dad knew him. And he said, "Oh, Nick, we just want to unload this place. It's nothing but problems. We can't." And so that's just how it got my dad thinking. And back then you were able to go to the bank, talk to the banker with a handshake deal and get loaned a lot of money. It never would have happened today.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. What do you think when you look back over those 42 years, what do you think has been the secret sauce, so to speak, the secret of success for the business?
Oh, I think it's easy. My parents always said you treat everyone like family, whether it's staff and or customers. You welcome them into your home. Mm-hmm. And I think over the years we've been very good at that. Plus, we know what our identity is. We try to be 70s retro at Nick's. We don't try to go with the newest trends as far as decor and everything. We try to keep it looking like from the 70s. But not run down. It's like we're always updating and doing things. And then of course, our recipes have been the same. We follow the same recipes for 42 years.
Mm-hmm. So. Now it's interesting you mentioned that because I remember a conversation with you, my wife and I had with you one night at Nick's in the lounge regarding that, right? And full disclosure, I've been going to Nick's for, well, not 42 years, but 40 years. I moved to Calgary in October 1980, and as being a sports reporter, I was spending a lot of time at the baseball stadium across the street, at McMahon, obviously, or at the track field, and university nearby as well. But I remember this conversation that we were having that night, and because I asked you, I said, I asked you about, change, and that some people have mentioned to you over the years, or maybe you should have your servers in skimpier outfits or whatever, and I found your response quite interesting about sticking to what made Nick's what it is today, right?
Yeah, we don't try to be something that we're not, and we just try to make sure the food and the service is top notch and the place looks, clean, immaculate, straight out of the 70s.
Okay. Now, being a regular there, I often see your father. It's hard to get him out of there, I guess, right?
He's there 7 days a week, all day long. Yeah. That's especially since my mother passed on, that's what he needs and thrives on, is being there. And this last year with COVID, it's tough because he really likes to see people and hug people and such, and he's not allowed, obviously.
Yeah.
But at least now we're able to let people back in the door so they can still talk with their masks and at distance. But yeah, he really thrives on that interaction.
And what do you think you learned from him in running the business? What are the key things?
Well, every single customer, whether it's super young little child to the oldest person in a wheelchair, they all demand our 100% attention, and you have to make them feel welcome. And for me, it's not an act. I am thankful for every single person that walks in that door. And I think I learned that from my parents, that there's so many restaurants in Calgary. There's like 2,000 or 3,000 restaurants, maybe less now because of some have closed. But when someone chooses to come to Nick's, it's a privilege that we have. It's not our right. There's so many other options that when they come in the door, make them feel welcome. You know, let them know that you are thankful. And if something goes wrong, if we burn their pizza or overcook their steak, tell us, we'll make it right, because that's, you know, we're not here to exploit anyone. We're just here to be thankful that Calgarians are still supporting Nick's Steakhouse.
So how do you maintain that slim figure with all that great food around you every day?
Well, I walk the dog quite often. I work out in the morning in the basement, and I do try to not eat fries every day.
It's tough, right?
Yeah.
How's it been? You know, you mentioned the COVID, obviously. Let's talk a little bit about that. How has the past year been for you as a business? And also bearing in mind, too, that a lot of your business comes from across the street with CFL games and stuff like that. And obviously no CFL this past season.
Well, it's been very, very challenging. It's been the hardest year we've ever had, obviously, in 42 years of being in business. But we're very fortunate that for 42 years, we've done takeout and delivery. And so we're positioned and ready. And as soon as the COVID hit in March, by the middle of April, we had a new online ordering system up and running. And my daughter runs my social media, and we've just been putting it out there. And thankfully, Calgarians have been supporting us. We're not making a lot of money these days, but we're not losing money. We're able to cover the costs, keep my key staff employed, and, you know, just keep things moving ahead reasonably normally.
Yeah. So when you look at the business overall, Mark, it's obviously been a great 42 years for you guys. You know, how long do you think you know, Nick's will maintain itself? Do you have plans, succession plans, to keep it in the family when you decide to hang it up, so to speak?
Well, you know what? I have 3 very successful children. They're doing their own things right now, but they do help me out at the restaurant. My one daughter helps me with social media. My son comes and helps me with different things at Nick's, and my other daughter comes and helps when we're busy on deliveries or whatever. She'll come and do whatever we need. But right now, it's my job. Like, I don't want to retire. And I've told them all to, you know, they all went and got their degrees, and they're all having success in life. And I don't want anyone to feel pressure to come and run Nick's Steakhouse. If and when I'm ready to retire, if hopefully one or all 3 or none, whatever, wants to do it, I'll figure that out then. Like, I'm not worried about it. But in my mind, I want Nick's Steakhouse to be there for the next 50 years.
Yeah.
Just because it's been good for me. Like I said, I never had to go and find a job anywhere else. I love what I do. I get up in the morning, I go to work, and it really doesn't feel like going to work. It feels like I'm going to my second home. Wow. And so it's not a bad thing. And if my kids, any or all of them, wants to get involved with that one day, great. And if not, well, we'll cross that bridge then. But right, I'm not ready to retire. I love what I do.
I wanted to ask you just a quick question, final question about Nick's itself. For those who don't know or haven't been there, in the lounge, one of the interesting aspects of the lounge I find is the back wall, right? And sort of the, it's the mini Calgary Stampeder Museum or a Hall of Fame for memorabilia, etc. Can you talk a little bit about that, Mark, and why that's important to have and how that came about?
Well, as you know, you used to cover my brother and I playing football in high school and university, and then my brother went on to the pros and played with the Stampeders for over 7 years. We call them the lean years, though, because that's when they were not doing very well, but still. And we just got to know all the players over the years. And even before my brother played, my father was just the biggest Stampeder fan ever. And for 42 years, we feed the Stampeders their pregame meals when they play at home. And we know all these people. We got all these pictures. Your buddy Daryl Slade, that was his collection. He thankfully donated to us a bunch of these pictures that we can put up on the wall. And now we have the Wall of Fame, and it's on that back wall, but also towards the washrooms in the dining room, because I ran out of space in the bar. Now I have other pictures of, like Randy Chevrier with the cup, and John Cornish and me, he's holding the great cup. Like, it's the Stampeders and us, we've had a very great relationship for, since we started Nick's.
Okay, I gotta ask, who's the most famous people that have set foot in Nick's and dined there?
Oh, well, I mean, if you can think of like sports figures, there's so many different sports figures. I remember when we hosted the Olympics, Lawrence Taylor was in there, and John Stockton, and Doug Flutie played for the Stamps. But we've had sitting prime ministers, like Stephen Harper, when he was the Prime Minister of Canada, would come in with all of his security, and it was really funny. One day he came in, and John Hufnagel was sitting up around the corner in the last booth with another coach, but they wanted to sit up around the corner, so there was nobody else up there. So we had the security, this and that. We closed all the blinds, and then he went and sat next to John Hufnagel, and right beside him in the next booth. And so my dad goes up and says, "Hey, John, do you know who's sitting behind you?" And he goes, "No." He goes, "This is Prime Minister Stephen Harper." And Dad says, "Prime Minister, do you remember John Hufnagel?" He goes, "Yeah, he's the best backup quarterback Calgary's ever had." And we roared with laughter. But Stephen Harper used to come to Nick's as a student. Like, he used to come in, so we knew him, and he still comes to Nick's. So he's a good guy. It's too bad he's not a prime minister anymore, but that's a different discussion.
Different discussion, yeah. But you know what? You bring up a good point, and I lied before about the last question about Nick's. But you bring up a good point. Like, 42 years. What I find when I come in there is that I inevitably see somebody that I've known for years, right? So it's that long-time customer, right, that really serves you well.
Mm-hmm, yeah, I mean, great customers. Even like famous people, like over the years, Robert Duvall, Holly Hunter, I don't know, Prince Albert of Monaco, you name it. There's so many people have come through Nick's, but we never had a camera there all the time. But now with our phones, I have a camera. So now I'm taking pictures when they come in. It's funny.
Exactly. Let's talk a little bit about your football career, Mark. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you have 2 Vanier Cup rings, right?
That's right, yeah. One from the 83 Dinos. We won the Vanier Cup, and one from the 86 UBC Thunderbirds. We won the Vanier Cup.
So people will want to know, and I'll ask you that question, how come 2 different teams?
Well, when I played with the Dinos, 85, I sat out from the Dinos because I went to training camp. I felt I was, ready, competing for the running back job, but there were so many good running backs on that team. So, and Pete Cannellan was the head coach. I love Pete still to this day, but he said, "Well, we're going to go with, the other guys." So I said, "Are you serious? I'm not going to play." He goes, "Well, you'll play, but eventually." I said, "No, take me off the roster. I'm going to sit out." And Mass Jeremiah had gone the year before to UBC, and he said, I phoned him, or he phoned me, because when he found out I had left the team, and he said, "Frank Smith is our head coach. He's a hard ass. He's very tough, but he's fair. He's very fair. Like if you do something wrong, oh my God, you're going to hear about it, but he will play you if you're good enough to go. So then I say, okay, I'll go out to spring camp and try it out. So I sat out the 85 season. Now March of 86 or April, I go to Vancouver for the spring camp. And I do the camp and they say, yeah, we want you. You come, you're going to be the running back. So then I go back for main camp in the summer, and they had just, Terry Cochran was on the team, and he had been the National Junior Football Player of the Year with the Regina Rams, and he's a running back. So I'm going, oh, great, here I go. So I get there for the summer camp, and they moved Terry to slot back, and I was a running back. Massel, the fullback, I was a running back, and we went undefeated and won the Vanier Cup. It was awesome. And I met my wife there in Vancouver.
Oh,
so
wow.
it couldn't get any better for me.
Great year for you.
Yeah, great year.
When you look back, obviously, you know what, your whole family and yourself have a very strong sports connection, both as playing, but also, as you mentioned, you know, all the connections, you know, with the university and with the Stampeders and everything else. What do you think you've learned from sports?
Teamwork and how to get along with people, and even if there's people that you're not really connecting with, you're not really, you know, friends with, doesn't matter. You have to get along. You find a way.
Yeah.
And when I was done playing all my sports and I first got married, I assistant coached at Diefenbaker. That was my high school. Then I was the head coach for a year. Then when my wife got pregnant and started having our children, I stepped back to help with the kids at home. And then I coached my son in hockey, my son in football, my daughters in ringette, my daughters and my son in lacrosse. I just became a coach, and whatever I had seen or learned from other coaches, I would put that into play. And all my teams had great success. And I think the girls and the boys, whatever I was coaching, I think they enjoyed me as a coach, and we just, like, our teams were successful mainly because I think they had a good time. And I remember one year I was coaching AA ringette. That's my girls played AA ringette. That's like, you know, it's like quadrant hockey. There's only 2 teams in Calgary. Like it's tough to make for each age group. And I'd be the coach, and they'd work hard, but I'd make sure it was fun. And then at the end of the year, the coaching evaluations from the parents would say, oh, Coach Mark, it's just too much fun. It's this, that, it's AA, it should be harder. And then, but yet most years, one year we won the national championship. The next year with my other daughter, I would take turns coaching them. We went to the nationals, and I think we ended up like 2nd or 3rd overall. Like, how much more success do you want? These people are crazy, but I'm not kidding, unless for some reason the perception from parents is if it's not hard and tough, and if my daughter isn't crying, then she's not learning. And I'm like, they are so off base.
Yeah.
You know, if there's any one thing that I ever really wanted to do other than work at Nick's, it was to be coach football or hockey, you know, and like get into it. Because I watch even some of these NHL coaches, and I just watch how they are, and I'm just going, man. But I mean, I'm not going to start now. I love what I do, and I'm ready to relax. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, you bet.
All right. But from sports has taught me how to get along with people and try to figure out what motivates each separate person.
Yeah, exactly.
So it works with our team at Nick's.
Okay, super. Well, thanks a lot, Mark, for joining us today.
Okay, Mario, thanks for having me, buddy.
And say hi to your dad for me, and tell him I'll be there soon for a visit.
Hallelujah.
All right, that was Mark Petros, owner of Nick's Steakhouse and Pizza in Calgary, and a former University of Calgary Dinosaur and University of British Columbia Thunderbird football player with 2 Vanier Cup rings under his belt. This has been Where Are They Now with Mario Toneguzzi on Megapix Media. Thanks for joining us today.